One of my students nearly exploded his chess elo after getting the knowledge I'm about to share you in this video. I will show you my exact 3-step frameworks to finding the best move in every chess position. Starting with the CCT formula, which explains the first rule for finding best moves in any position is to look for all the forcing moves in that position. Once identified, you may start evaluating each one to determine which one should be considered and which ones to be avoided. Multiple forcing moves are also called candidate moves. Forcing moves consist of checks, captures, and threats. Let's understand this better with a simple position. In this position, white has an advantage. However, he must spot the best continuation to claim it. So white will start applying the CCT rule. First, white will look for any useful checks in the position. Since there are none, he moves on to the next C, that is captures. White spots that there are 3 captures. Knight captures on d5, rook captures on g6, and bishop captures on g7. Once after evaluating, he notices that knight captures on d5 and rook captures on g6 are pretty useless because they hang a piece. However, bishop captures on g7 might do something. So let's try calculating it. Bishop captures, the king would have to capture, knight to f5, exploiting the pin on the g file, and there is knight to d4 followed by, which would win one of the 2 rooks. So sensing the opportunity, white decides to go for it. He plays bishop captures, taking the bishop is forced, knight f5, and now comes knight to d4, forking both the rooks. So once the rook moves back, there is knight captures, f captures, and after knight c1, you will notice that white is up 2 pawns just because he managed to spot the best continuation in the position, which allowed him to seize the advantage. As a result, you can see the effectiveness of the CCT formula. Now let's head on to a bit more of a complex position. This time, try applying the CCT formula yourself and see if you could spot the winning continuation for white. Talking about the checks in the position, there are checks like queen to f8, queen f6, or rook d8. However, they're pretty pointless to discuss. Then we move on to captures. Captures like queen captures on h7 and queen captures on a6, again, absolutely does nothing. And lastly, we move on to threats. White could go for threats like queen to b6 attacking the rook or queen to h5 attacking the pawn. However, the biggest threat which black currently suffers from is the threat of getting checkmated on f8. So if white could somehow deflect this black queen off of that f8 square, white would be completely winning. So seizing the initiative, white finds rook to d7, preparing to deflect the queen because queen captures on d7 leads to queen to f8, checkmate. So after rook d7, black must need to avoid it. Black would play queen to e8, but now the things are pretty much very easy. Queen to f6 check, the king would be forced to g8, and after rook to d8, there is no way for black to save the queen, and it would be again completely winning for white. The second step framework brings us to this concept called prophylaxis. Prophylaxis means paying attention to your opponent's last move and his ideas. Let's break it down. This is a crucial position in a final round game between 2 grandmasters. Whoever wins this game will win first place in the tournament. White has just played the move bishop to g3, preparing the f5 break. However, black for some reason decides to not take it seriously, and he's only focused on creating his own threats and does not focus on his opponent's ideas. Following this, he plays the move bishop to d7, attacking the pawn on g4, a big mistake, because he completely overlooked this little move queen to e3. It not only comes with an attack on the knight, but also guards the bishop, and this time preparing the f5 break with the fork on the queen and the rook. So black is in some trouble. He should play safely. Rather, he decides to get panicked and plays the move bishop captures on g4, completely missing white's point. What black thought white's point was queen captures on e7, forcing a queen trait, and after rook captures on e7, black does have knight f5 winning material. But what black missed is that after bishop captures, white point was never to go for queen captures on e7. It was pawn to f5, coming with an attack on the queen. Knight takes, we have bishop captures, white wins the queen, black does the same. Bishop to e5, an important check, gaining a tempo, king to h6, and after rook captures on e3, it is pretty clear that black is losing everything. The knight is going to capture the pawn on t5, the f7 pawn is weak, but more importantly, both the rooks in the corner are completely doomed. Basically, black is losing everything, and very soon the game is going to be over for black. Next, let's watch how prophylaxis works in tactics. Whenever you reach a dangerous position like this, of course you know that you need to play carefully and find the best move to escape out of trouble. That's why it is important to improve your calculation skills and consider your opponent's ideas. Here white is completely losing by being down in material. If black calculates carefully, he can easily spot the winning continuation. But the pressure to convert took over black and he blundered. He played the move king to f8. Had he considered a bit more carefully, he would have spotted bishop captures, queen captures, king to h7, and after queen to h3 hoping for a perpetual, there is queen to c8, and the problem is wherever the bishop moves, next move, the queens are gonna get traded off and black would be completely winning. Rather, that did not happen. In the game, king to f8 was played. f5 was played. Of course, black saw this coming. So black played bishop captures on e6, and now comes the horror, which black completely missed. That is f captures on g6. Not f captures on e6 as black was hoping, because after king to g8, there is just no follow-up for white, and black is completely losing. So after f captures on g6, king to g8 was played, and now comes queen captures on e6 with check. King to h8, and after rook f5, in this position, black decided to resign the game because there is no prevention of rook to h5, check, followed by bishop h6 and rook h6 coming with checkmating threats. Basically, it's a forced checkmate in 6 moves, which cannot be avoided. The third framework uncovers a hidden chess secret. What if you don't have a best move? Real quick, I know you're tired of being stuck at chess. That's why you must check out Chess AIX. Chess AIX allows you to conduct analysis with the strongest engine, as well as gives you improvement stats and details with personalized training plan. Use code WIN30 to get 30% off as a limited time offer. Well, the secret lies in improving your worst placed piece. As Magnus quoted, one badly placed piece makes your whole position bad. Let's head on to the board to show you what I'm talking about. This game has reached a very double-edged position. There are no clear best moves for either side. White would love to open up the center with pawn to e6. At the moment, that's not possible because of black's strong grip in the center. The other option, what white could do, is maybe help out with the attack with the rook. But if that happens, black will most likely run away by castling to either sides. So when you lack a best move, in that situation, the best thing to do is to identify your worst placed piece and improve its position. Here white manages to spot that the knight on c3 is pretty useless. It controls no key squares. So identifying the key square on c5, white decides to reroute the knight by playing knight to b1. Now white will follow the route of knight to b2, knight b3, and then knight c5 to gain complete control over black's position. Black plays e6, strengthening control over the center, with knight b to d2 following the plan. And here black realizes, if he stands still and does nothing, white is just going to play knight b3, knight c5 and cause some chaotic problems in black's position. So black plays bishop to h6, attacking the f4 pawn, but just g3, defending it. We have c5. Signs of desperation. Black becomes delusional, hoping he can create counterplay by sacrificing a pawn on the c file. But we have just d takes on c5. The knight moves to a4, and after knight b3, another key square has been vacated. That's the square on d4. White aims to control the square with both the knights. The problem, again, with knight d4 is after knight takes and bishop takes, the bishop is just like a pawn, and you don't want the bishop to be like this. You want a square like this to be controlled by a knight. That's why after knight to a4, knight to b3 was played. Preparing to take control of d4, with bishop to f8, black wants to win back the c5 pawn, and here white is just completely winning. With a winning position, white calmly plays the move pawn to h3, and he prepares push like g4, f5 to open up the center. By the time black will be done recollecting his pawn, white will already be opening up the center and attacking the black king. Absolutely nothing for black to do. But in a shocking turn of events, white did not trust his chances and decided to agree to a draw. Maybe he didn't feel like squeezing out the position. That's basically the entire 3-step framework that you need to spot the best moves every single time and dominate chess. Peace out. Go start grinding out.